Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of This is CineMMA, MMA Fighting's martial arts movie podcast. Time once again for the old lumpy, bumpy. No, sorry, that we are not doing Fight Valley again as much as I wanted to do. I did want to turn that into a 2-episode series. I was denied. Instead, we are going with another female-led fighting film. It's time for Bruised, guys. This movie is produced, directed, starring the majestic Halle Berry. This 2020 film sees Berry playing Jackie Justice, a once promising fighter who's fallen on very hard times, but gets on a road to redemption that ends up with her fighting a world champion played by MMA superstar Valentina Shevchenko. So I'm very excited to talk about this one. I am joined, as always, by the wonderfuls, that's how you pluralize wonderfuls, Jed Meshew and E. Casey Line. Say hi, fellas. There's Jed.
Too busy grooving.
Getting down. A little distressing sign in the background. There's
I'm trying to enjoy the good vibes right now because the rest of this program will not be good vibes.
Yes, we should warn people. Let's give a trigger warning ahead of time, guys. The spoiler-free synopsis is over, so spoilers are coming, and a little bit of a trigger warning. This movie involves domestic violence. It talks about rape. It's pretty heavy. Incest. Don't forget the incest. I think some child abuse as well. It's a pretty heavy film. Yeah.
Wait. Let's cover it all. Anything else?
I'm trying. I don't even.
I mean, just poverty in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poverty, alcohol, substance abuse.
And graphic violence. So it's
pretty violent. Again, this movie is called Bruised. There's quite a bit of bruising, quite a bit of bleeding. And we're going to get into it. Having explained to people already what a feel-good time this movie is, Jed, can we get your elevator pitch for Bruised?
Yeah, so the elevator pitch is pretty straightforward. Do you guys remember the movie Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, where the title has happiness in the name, but the film is actually just a relentless onslaught of sadness, then capped off with a happy ending? Bruised is that, only without the happy ending, and if it's all kind of MMA related.
That's a pretty good sell. I like that. I don't remember how well this movie did. I don't think if we got streaming numbers for this. Casey, what was your first impression when you were finished with the movie? What was your first thought when you were done? When you made it through?
Well, much like Halle Berry's character, Jackie Justice, I am also bruised right now. Like I have a nice little shine.
You're a method. You might be the world's first method podcaster.
Yeah, I wanted to feel what Jackie Justice was feeling, but no, actually, I do not, because the things she goes through in this movie are so freaking horrible. This movie is it's kind of like trauma porn. It was just like, what horrible things can we put on one character? And then throw some cage fighting. That's what it was.
Yes, this movie opens up with a couple of important things. First, the first two people we actually see are professional fighters Gina Carano and Julie Kedzie, who hardcore MMA fans will remember were in the first ever televised women's MMA bout. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Elite FC. So that was a big deal. We then get a montage of other.
Also, that event was the first MMA event I ever worked on. I worked on that event.
Wow. That was the first one.
Yeah, that was the first league's event. I built me and two other editors. We built the countdown show for that. So we shot all the shot all the footage of Gina when she was just this young Muay Thai prospect out of Vegas. Yep.
And where were you on fight night? Would you have been around cage side?
I wasn't there for fight night. I was not there for fight night. But I worked on all the promotional materials and did shot interviews and everything of that. Yeah. So it was kind of weird, full circle ish.
You're canonically in this movie. Like you are in the Bruised universe. Yeah, you're not on screen, but you are somewhere because you were involved. Yeah, you are in the Bruised. You were part of the Bruised expanded universe. Mm-hmm. Again, as shown by the bruise on your face. So we see that. We see a bunch of clips of other big moments in women's MMA, and then we get our introduction to Jackie Justice, who unfortunately is seen running away, kind of pulling a Chelsea Chandler in the movie, but actually running all the way out of a cage as she is in the middle of a heated cage fight. It's quite traumatic. And then we fast forward and we catch up with her a few years later. She is unemployed, living with her. Sorry, she's not unemployed. What,
Recently
Jed?
unemployed.
What do we? She becomes unemployed. Jed, what happens? What's the first horrible thing we see happen? And then Casey, I want you to give us the rest of of poor Jackie's terrible day. Jed, what's our first thing we see of?
She is cleaning apartment, a house, I guess, not really an apartment, a townhome, and nothing terrible about that. It's an honorable profession. But then while she is changing in this home to swap out of her work gear or whatever, the teenage-ish aged son takes some photos of her in a state of undress and then won't delete them and or give it back. So she hits a child, which is fine, honestly, because he's being a real prick. But yeah, tough start to the movie. And I got to tell you, that's one of the less unsettling bad things that happened in this film. So off to a rollicking start.
Yeah, that's just the morning. And
that's
yes,
her
we're to
morning.
understand she is that. So now she is unemployed. Casey, you as you watched the film, I think just before Jed and I did, and you kind of you were so overwhelmed. You sent us a message. I don't know if you want to load that up of how rough the rest of that happened, and then the rest of this day was.
Yeah, I got. Let me bring that message up because a lot happened. This is on the first 15 minutes of the film.
First 15 minutes and one day, our first day with this character.
One day of her life in the first 15 minutes. So, okay, the first 15 minutes. So, oh wait, we have a lot of messages about this. I realize. Okay, so after she does that, she catches him. She smashes the phone. She gets home. So she goes home, and then we don't get introductions to characters, but we assume this is her boyfriend. And she gets home, and her boyfriend already kind of found out about it, verbally abuses her. They get in a giant fight. The Jackie Justice says the great line, was it, "You're a part-time limo driver, but a full-time loser." So they're very mean to each other. Then they have some wild, angry sex in the kitchen. So this just kind of comes out of nowhere. Then later that evening, when does she start spraying the alcohol into her mouth?
I think that's when she gets home from I believe she does that before she fights.
Oh, is that before?
The start of the fight, because he is asleep when she arrives.
Yeah,
that's what it is. So before that, apparently she's alcoholic, a secret alcoholic who's been pouring liquor, whiskey into empty bottles of house cleaner, sprays it in her mouth and hides it under the sink cleverly. That's going to come back. That's going to come back.
Sure.
Then the boyfriend goes, "You know what? We had some great angry sex. Let's go to an underground cage fight." I'm not going to tell you, though, but we're going to show up at an underground cage fight, which, I don't know. I've been working in this industry almost 20 years. I still have not come across these underground fights. But when she gets there, the wonderful MMA fighter and grappler Gabby Garcia is playing Werewolf. I think Werewolf,
correct.
Werewolf.
Yeah.
And then we proceed to watch Werewolf murder a woman with her bare hands. Then a Russian gangster decides to mock Jackie Justice, like, "Hey, why don't you fight her?" in a very bad, thick Russian accent. She refuses. They make fun of her. Jackie Justice tries to leave, but then Werewolf, Gabby Garcia, attacks her. Then Jackie Justice grabs a jar. There's just a mason jar right there. Slams it on Gabby Garcia's head. She falls down. Gabby Garcia. Oh no, she doesn't fall down. Jackie Justice then shows off her immaculate grappling skills and goes for a single leg X takedown, which is the first really good grappling we've seen in actually all the MMA, as far as like leg attacks and all the MMA movies so far. It's pretty slick. It was slick. I was like, "Ooh, cool." But there's a lot of broken glass on the ground too, so I don't know how strategic this was. But takes her down and then proceeds to headbutt Werewolf into, I guess, a coma. Then they drag her out. They get into their car. Then we meet another character named Immaculate, who turns out is the movie version of the Invicta FC promoter. So I guess we find out that Invicta FC, the promoter, was there. And then...
Okay, so let me pause there for a second. And this day is not over. This day is not over, by the way. This day is not over. Yeah, so Immaculate, played by John Wick. Well, a lot of people know him from John Wick. Shamir Anderson from John Wick 4. Does a lot of other things as well, of course. Just thinking of a big movie everyone would have seen. Yes, there is no Shannon Knapp in this universe. There is Invicta, because you guys can see. Casey is wearing his Invicta gear, and Invicta is kind of the
we
goal
can't say
for
there's
our
no
character.
Shannon Knapp. She's just not in
This is
charge
true.
of Invicta.
This is true.
Yeah.
And perhaps this is a world where Shannon Knapp has taken more of a hands-off approach and hired this entrepreneuring young man, Immaculate, who did 15 years in prison for murder. We find out he got caught up in the gang life. You know, sometimes you gotta kill someone.
I forgot that part.
He did. Listen, he paid his debt to society. He did 15 hard years in the slammer, and now he is really overqualified at this point, I think, to run an MMA promotion. So it is, yes, Invicta is run by Immaculate.
Yeah,
That's the only name we get for him. And
So,
yes, he decides he sees Jackie Justice and says, hey, she used to fight the UFC. Maybe we bring her back in the fold here.
So Jackie Justice, who's now retired, after kind of murdering a woman, gets offered a contract to fight in Invicta FC. So that's good, I guess.
She's back.
Yeah, I'm back, baby. So the day could end on a high note, maybe. They travel home, then it starts storming. It's raining very hard now in Newark, New Jersey. And then at their home is Jackie's mom, who maybe she hasn't seen in a while. And Jackie's mom is there to reveal the news that, hey, Jackie, here is your long lost 6-7-year-old son who just witnessed his daddy get murdered, and now he won't talk about it. And and here you go. And this is your first day of Jackie Justice.
Yeah, and it should be noted, not long lost, knowingly abandoned, we should say. Jackie,
which you kind of find out throughout
the story, for whatever reason, she did not feel she was in a position to raise this child, and essentially left it with the father and said, here you go, you're a single father now. So it's not a great first impression of Jackie Justice and her life. It's not a lot of fun. And Jed, I think that's kind of a theme of this film. Not a lot of fun. Is that, I don't know. I feel like you didn't have
zero
a great time.
fun.
Yeah.
Zero fun, sir. Like there is nothing enjoyable about this film. I will obviously get into our ratings at the end of this. I think you'll kind of understand where I'm coming from as we process this, but under no circumstances do you fire this movie up because I just got a couple hours to kill. It'll be a good little happy time waster with my significant other on a Friday night. That's not what this is about. So don't head into it thinking it's that way.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough, man. And we understand the life of every fighter is tough. They're telling a story here. They're trying to tell kind of a Rocky type story. And so they got to sink it. You really sink in the depths. This is Halle Berry's directorial debut. We've all kind of agreed that she seemed to want to throw in as much stuff as she directed as if she would never direct another movie again. You know, she threw everything in this movie. So we got to get into some of the storylines. Before we do, I mean, we've already touched upon many. Before we do,
any joy in this film.
Yeah, this is back-to-back movies, by the way. You know, we just did Más Fuerte que el Mundo, the Jose Aldo biopic, and our biggest complaint was, where is the joy in this film? Where is the smiling, jovial Jose Aldo that we all know and love? Nowhere to be seen. So this is back-to-back movies where we've been kind of like, man, we always say MMA is supposed to be fun. And you do not see any of that in these two movies that we have reviewed these last 2 weeks.
Más Fuerte que el Mundo is it's like a Jackass movie compared to this as far as levity and humor.
Yeah.
Like this is like the zone of interest. There's nothing happy about this film.
I mean, and Zone of Interest, a very critically acclaimed movie, so maybe not a terrible comparison.
Movie, you can be a good movie that's not unhappy, and I'm not telling you what my score is yet. We'll do our fist
yes,
at
we'll
the
get
end.
to it.
But this movie is deeply unhappy. Like it is a deeply unhappy film.
Let's get to the positive.
Punishingly unhappy.
Yeah,
trauma porn really is not wrong. Like it is not a wrong way to describe this film.
Yeah.
Let's get to the positive first, then. Let's start with that, especially since it kind of leads into our first question that we ask every week on the show. How much MMA is this movie? And we like to evaluate based on a white belt to black belt scale. And I don't know if we've had a black belt martial arts film yet. We thought that the Jose Aldo movie would be a very obvious black belt pick. It wasn't. There
like
wasn't
not
a lot
even
of fighting.
kind of.
Didn't
we give it like a blue?
I don't know where we all agreed
Yeah.
on it, but none of us gave it black. I don't even know if we went brown belt. I think
I think
which is again
purple is the highest. I
brown.
think we hit. Yeah.
which is strange considering it's a movie about one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time that should have been an automatic black belt. This movie, again, obviously was worked in conjunction with the UFC, with Invicta. It's about a woman trying to get back into MMA fighting. You would think that's a black belt movie. There's really only one fight in the movie, and so I think we've all fallen short of that. So and it's a great fight. We'll get to that.
We've not all fallen short of it. I think this is a clear black belt film.
Oh, you did give it a black belt. Okay.
Yeah, I gave it a clear.
Sure.
I don't know if you mentioned this. This is the second time we recorded this podcast, so we already had this conversation. I think this is a very clear black belt film to me. I understand the argument that, it's a character-centered piece and not like a MMA-centered piece in some ways, and I get that. But I think that both in form and function, this movie is intrinsically MMA. The lead character is an MMA fighter. The plot is directed by her fighting in MMA, all that specifically. And then also just functionally, this is an unflinching look at kind of some of the seedier, unfortunate aspects of MMA, be it coaches and their relationships with fighters and grooming from straight up like as a thing, the managerial relationship between fighters, the fact that fighters don't make a lot of money and have to work other jobs, and that if they don't become wildly successful, then suddenly you are, cleaning houses for some petulant 14-year-old who's sexually assaulting you. Like these are actual pieces of the MMA atmosphere in real life, and I think that this is a very good, deep look into that aspect of the sport, as well as being just on its face about MMA. To me, this is a black belt MMA movie.
Casey, I think you and I are more like we're close. I think we both said brown belt, 4 or 5 stripes. Like it's about as close. I just wanted more. I personally wanted more fights, which shouldn't be the definition of a martial arts movie, by the way, because Jose Aldo movie technically has like 3 or 4 or 5 like fights in it, like 2 or 3 sanctioned ones. They're not very long, but you do see a bit of, and that's less. Yeah, and that's probably
4 sanctioned fights in the
less of an MMA. Yeah, and that's less of an MMA. This one has some training, a lot of good training stuff. Technique talk. There's like technique talk. Like there's attempts to bring people into the world of training and preparing and actual fighting. But we kind of agreed. Casey, what was your argument for like why it falls just short of being a black belt film?
I want to give it. I really do want to give it a black belt, but I still think I'm gonna give it like a brown belt, like a 4-stripe brown belt. But everything Jed said, this does show a lot of the seedier side of prize fighting. Essentially, there's no real money into the sport. The idea of you being brought in to build up another fighter, which that was probably, I wish they kind of hit that point more on the promotional side of it. But the reason I did like it a lot in MMA aspect is like they did actually show all aspects of MMA. They showed her wrestling. They showed her doing a lot of groundwork, a lot of training montages. Some of the training montages were kind of silly, but a lot of it was good. They're like her just working with a grappling dummy, working positions, things like that. Things that I think that probably the average viewer might find kind of silly or boring, but for me, I was like, oh, that's cool. That's what people actually do in the gym. So I did like all that stuff. I guess why can't I give it a black belt? I
wanted more fights. I wanted one more. I would have loved if they put in one more actual fight. I like that. I think one more fight before.
But here's my counter to that, AK.
Yeah.
Sure. This movie has more fight scene in it than any other MMA movie, probably.
Yes.
Like if you combined all the pieces, because the last 30 minutes, the entire third act is functionally a 25-minute fight. All of that. Like I haven't done the math, but I'm confident if you chopped up the number of fight scenes in Mas Forte que Mundo or the 18 times they replayed Dalton killing Jay Huron in Roadhouse, that it still doesn't add up to the same time that you get in the Invicta finale fight, because that is Straight up, if the rest of the movie was trash and had nothing to do with MMA, this would be a black belt movie for me because of the third act. Like,
all right, well,
just that alone is enough to be like, yeah, this is a deeply MMA movie.
Let's get to the fight. The fight. So again, she fights Lucia Chavez, aka Lady Killer, played by Valentina Shevchenko. Why they made her from Argentina? I guess just because she speaks Spanish. Very confusing. I don't know why, but more power to. And she doesn't. And she barely speaks Spanish in the film, so it's not even like
she could have been from Peru. Like
she could have been from Peru. Why even switch to Argentina? Like she's actually Valentina Shevchenko actually lived and trained in Peru. She does a life in Peru, and they said Argentina. Why not make her Russian? Because when she speaks in English, she has her clear Kyrgyz accent.
They didn't change Keith Peterson's accent. He got to be Keith Peterson.
Keith Peterson. I don't know. I sensed a little bit. I think he tried to go British a little bit. No, Keith. Yes, well, Keith Peterson's in there. So yes, this final fight, we all agreed, pretty damn great. As Jed pointed out, there's more MMA in this one fight than in all the other movies we've seen combined. It's a legit 25-minute like MMA fight. They cut it a little bit, but other than that, it's really well done. You guys mentioned the reality of MMA. We are told she makes $10K to show and $10K to win. That is Jackie Justice, which is, I think, for even an Invicta title fight, that's pretty low. I would like to think she would, but she has no leverage either. She hasn't fought. As far as we know in the movie, she hasn't fought for something like 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years, yeah. So
because we learned that she stopped after, of course, that embarrassing performance, which was motivated by her having a child. And she says, like, "Oh, I ran away not just from the fight. I ran away from being a mother." Did we
explain the embarrassing performance?
Well, yeah, we did at the beginning. She literally exits the cage. Yes, and that is her first. She is a 10-0 fighter who literally her first loss comes via TKO, exiting the cage, or disqualification. I'm not sure.
Hopping the fence to run away.
We also see this whole running out of the cage. Don't we see it from like her point of view? It's like
we see it from her point of view.
Yeah, yes, like so.
She jumps the cage wall and is down, and
Yeah, so
her manager's screaming at her. Her manager / boyfriend screaming at her. What are you doing? What are you doing? Da da da. And then she hasn't fought since. And then we find out she has a son 5 or 6 years later. So that's how we know she hasn't fought in 5 or 6 years, and it's just thrown into
So she had a son before that fight. Gave up.
She had a son before that fight. Yeah.
Gave up her son, or let the baby daddy raise the son.
Yes.
And then
objectively a correct decision, by the way. Like, I know we're gonna knock on it, but like she has a substance abuse problem and is a pro fighter living with an abusive human being.
We don't know that she had we don't know that she had the substance abuse problem at that time. And also I think we're to understand she wasn't with the manager as a partner at that time either. It was her manager. And then I think later they become involved.
Either way, he was a cop in Florida and seems like his life, based on the one video we saw, actually was together. So not a bad call on her part.
I disagree. I think she could have maybe sacrificed a little bit and tried to be a mom.
I agree. People should be better, but if you're not going to be better, that was a correct decision to make.
Maybe so. I don't know. We'll see, because she certainly regrets it.
And I'm also a little confused. So she got pregnant, had a kid, recovered from having a child. So I'm assuming she was out for like a year and a half.
Probably. Yes.
And then she made her UFC debut.
We don't know if it's today.
Oh yeah.
My understanding is that she had fought in the UFC multiple times. That is but they don't make it clear. They just say she's 10-0. They don't say she's like 10-0 and 3-0 in the UFC. They just say she's 10-0. My understanding.
But they did say she got a big jump up in competition, right?
Sure.
And so
because they say the manager like screwed it up her career or something. Like the manager
saying,
you threw her into a fight she wasn't prepared for. All this. So anyway, yes, there's some of that in there. But either way, somehow after 5 years, she still has enough of a name to get this title shot. We don't know how old she is in the movie. My guess is maybe late 30s, early 40s. Because Halle Berry in real life, when she did this movie, I think was 53 or 54 years old. And she looks fantastic. She's doing most of her own stunts, we should say. As far as we know, I heard she did all her own stunts, though there is a stunt double credited. Shout out to Anisha Gibbs in the credits. Shout out to the fight team as well. Eric Brown, who worked on John Wick, one of the John Wick guys, as well as William Cote, Bernadette Couture, and Noah Schultz. I just got to shout all those people out because the fight looks fantastic. It is a great, again, we get a 5-round fight. All the drama, you kind of, almost for a moment, I think what makes it so great is you kind of forget, it lets you forget all the horror that you have seen for the past hour and 45 minutes before this fight. And you just see some good old-fashioned MMA. Jackie is presented as a grappler. It's made very clear she's not a great striker. She doesn't look like a great striker in the movie, to be honest. No. So with apologies to Halle Berry, the striking isn't great. Maybe it's on purpose. But the grappling, really nice, really nice. We see a lot of that in the movie. We see a lot of that in this fight. It's kind of how she survives. It's kind of how she turns the tables on Valentina Shevchenko, aka Lady Killer, and ends up. We get the Rocky ending. She does end up losing a split decision, but it's there's a somewhat of a positive turnaround in her life. And again, I can't say enough. Like, this is so much better than the end of Roadhouse. This is so much better than anything we saw in the Jose Aldo movie. It's about as good as some of the fight scenes in Fight Valley. I don't want to quite put it above the climactic fight scene between Susie Selleck and Chris Cyborg, where Susie Selleck just gets her ass handed to her after a whole movie of preparation. Anyway, but no, in all seriousness, great stuff. What stood out for you guys from this fight scene, Jed?
It's just. Sorry, we're talking about the final fight scene. I was doing
the final fight. Yeah, not the final fight scene from Fight Valley. The final. So if you want to talk about that, I'm here all day. But specifically the one from Bruised.
Yeah. Okay. This is the best fight scene that's ever been in an MMA movie. I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm sure Casey will bring this up because he's a little more focused on some of the parts of that. This is not what a real fight looks like. This is a movie fight, and movie fights and real fights are not the same. They are because real fighting is too cinematic. It's the same way that all sports don't translate really to film in the same way because it doesn't register, it doesn't get over. This is as good of a movie MMA fight as I think you can have. You can nitpick some of the technical stuff, and some of it's obviously like a little too cool that could never happen. But you get like a pretty clear look of here's the striking, here's the grappling, here different aspects of all of this. Here's an ebb and a flow of a fight. She starts off down, she kind of overcomes, she starts getting her game going. Valentina comes back, Lady Killer comes back. Like, you're getting cornering between the rounds of saying like a very real thing of why is this woman not going away at this point and having a fighter reckon with that. You're getting all aspects of like a high level mixed martial arts fight conveyed accurately and appropriately given the medium. I genuinely think it's the best MMA fight I have ever seen in a movie. And like I said, that's why I would give this movie a black belt, if for nothing else other than this final scene.
It's that it really is that good. I mean, you're not like your black belt awarding to this film is completely justified if just based on, again, some of the stuff before and how well this is done. Let me add some more details, Case, before I throw to you. We got Eve Edwards and Julie Kedzie on commentary. Shout out to them. They're doing very solid movie commentary. Where it's both, they're trying to sell the passion of what's happening, and they're acting kind of as exposition for the viewer, especially for viewers who, maybe just flicking on Netflix. They like Halle Berry, maybe not super familiar with MMA. So I thought they did an excellent job of that. And as you said, Keith Peterson's in there as well. nice little cameo for him. Antonina Shevchenko, and the rest of Valentina's team are shown. They're in the corner. So it's a really great MMA scene. It feels so authentic. It feels so real. Other than kind of classic having to very much black out the crowd. It's just kind of how you have to do these things. They did it for the Jose Aldo movie too, and that was supposed to be in a venue that had like 55,000 people. So it's just how these things go. But Casey, what did you like? What really stood out for you in the final
the main thing, just reiterate everything Jed said, but the main thing I liked about it is that they gave it time. They didn't like montage the fight scene. Montage the final fight. Mm-hmm. They actually told. And this is kind of the beauty in MMA, at least of 5-round fights. That's the closest that MMA fans get to kind of like the big boxing kind of ups and downs, ebbs and flows of a boxing match. In 5-round fights, every once in a while we do get that. And that's what they try to they told kind of a boxing story in an MMA match, which each round, round 1, round 2, you kind of feel the fight go up and down. And they did a good job with like Julie and Eve kind of continue the storyline, she should go to the ground, kind of all that stuff. So, I just really enjoyed the fact that they gave it room to breathe. And I wasn't expecting that. So, because usually these films just kind of mishmash into everything one giant round, for these films. My big kind of takeaway, though, criticism, and like Jed said, this is pretty much all action films, all combat sports action films. Every punch is pretty much a knockout punch.
Yeah.
but they treat it like a jab. Like every time
Yeah.
they get hit, it's like, oh, that's a concussion. You should be down. You're done. But they're like, ugh. Like everyone's got like Nick Diaz type of chin in these worlds. But those are movies, and So outside of that, though, I liked it.
Yeah, I think you guys have explained why this is great movie MMA. This is the best movie MMA that has maybe been put on film ever. I like what you said, Casey, about they gave the fight room to breathe, because I think that's what our major gripe with maybe the rest of this movie is. Just the script is not great. The editing is a kind of a mess. And if that had been, if they had given some of these other moments and storylines more room to breathe, and some of the other ones less room to breathe, frankly,
one quick thing, the final fight scene. One thing I hated about the Aldo movie in the final fight scene is like, they decided to do every zoom and camera twirl in that movie.
Horrible.
In this movie, everything's basically very the edits and camera moves don't get you dizzy. Basically, you understand what's going on, even though there's fast editing and sharp cuts and stuff like that, and like zooms and stuff. Everything feels like you're in the fight. So, credit to Halle Berry for directing this the final fight scene very well, and because a lot of these they just become this big mash of just edits, and you just get lost in it. So I never felt lost when I was watching the final fight scene.
Yeah, and again, I don't know how much she used her stunt double, if at all. Again, I assumed there was at least some, but based on like you said, the way they filmed it, it's a lot of long shots. Like you feel like Italian there. You definitely feel like Italian there. If they fooled us with some movie magic, I'm impressed. But I tell you, I think it really felt like Italian there.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I was never taken out of the scene going, "Oh, that's a stunt double." Yeah, now that I think about it, I'm sure there was a stunt double. It had to be, for some of the throws. I'm sure you just don't want to do that to your main character, if they get hurt. Mm-hmm. But no, they did a good job. Yeah. Watch the final 30 minutes of the movie, people. You can skip the first 90 minutes.
You need the context. You need her struggle. And hats off to Valentina Shevchenko as well, who again has to learn the movie fight.
Yes, Valentina.
Jed, I know you've done a little bit of that kind of training, and that's not easy for someone who's a real life like killer to kind of dial it back and also perform in a way that works for the cameras, right?
It's just way different. So I've taken a movie fighting class. We did one here at our gym. Because Atlanta, the hub of filmmaking or whatever, and it's just like it is over the top, theatrical, performative. It's not the same, and so they are very different skills. But kind of one of my big honest takeaways from this is like, oh, Valentina Shevchenko's good at this. Like she doesn't get a lot of speaking parts, and I would not say that she like thrives in line delivery, because I don't know, it's a different set of skills, but she is athletic enough, and I would venture to say that her kind of background in dancing, which is a lot more like dance choreography, is a lot closer to fight choreography than just like a fighting background, frankly. I would say that she comes across very believable in what she is doing in a way that I don't think others have nearly the success with. So like the thing that jumps to mind is they wanted to make Ronda Rousey a star, and so they put her in a fast movie. And I get the core concept. Ronda Rousey's bad at all of this, and so none of it worked. Whereas like I can understand putting Valentina Shevchenko as like the big bad, or not the big bad, but like the medium bad who doesn't have that many lines, but just gets to be the physical counter to, Michelle Rodriguez or whatever. That makes sense. And I honestly watching this like, oh, Shevchenko should get more chances to do that. I think she could carve out some set of this kind of space for herself if she got that opportunity, because she was good in that part of it.
Yeah, and even regarding like just the acting, for the most part, I didn't just feel like she was being Valentina Shevchenko, if that makes sense. Like, and again, she doesn't have a lot of lines. She doesn't have a lot of acting to do in this movie outside of the fight. But there's moments where she has to be sort of a more heelish, arrogant, evil, sort of, not evil, but definitely heelish, aggressive character. And we saw glimpses of that. And I'm kind of like, okay, cool. Like she's at least trying not to just do herself. She's not just Connor in Roadhouse doing Connor to like 150% of Connor or 200% of Connor. She did. I think she's a better actor in what I saw here than Conor McGregor was in Roadhouse. But maybe that's not a very high bar. Maybe I'm picking some low hanging fruit here. But yeah, so I thought she did fine.
Connor could have moments. I'm not sure. He is not a good physical actor, but he could have moments of line delivery. It's tough.
Yeah. This fight scene also had my favorite move in the movie.
Imagine if they casted Valentina as the heavy in Roadhouse. Just saying.
It would have been. Hey, listen, Roadhouse 2. As of this recording, we have heard that a Roadhouse 2 has been greenlit, and I think you're going to bring back Conor. Obviously, I think you've got to bring in more MMA power. But definitely bring in a woman fighter. You can do a hell of a lot worse than Valentina.
Valentina would have actually made sense when Roadhouse was going to be Ronda Rousey's thing.
Oh,
actually, Valentina actually would have made sense as like
the
opposite to her there.
I want to say, yes, this fight scene had my favorite move of the movie, which was Valentina doing an Muhammad Ali foot shuffle and then Anderson Silva front kicking Halle Berry in the face. Completely unrealistic, but hilarious.
It was incredible.
It's so good. It's so good. And it worked. And you know what? Jackie Justice just eats it and keeps on going, just keeps on grinding. So that was great. I don't know if any moves in the movie, anything that happened in training maybe jumped out at you guys at all.
So one of two things jumped out at me. The first one is the only nitpick I'll have about this sort of stuff. Ostensibly, she is a grappler. Like that is a thing that they say point blank. You're a grappler.
Multiple times,
and then, like they drive that point home, and it is true because she's a bad striker, and they also drive that point home both verbally and like in what they show you. At one point, she gets taught. We haven't really talked about Budokan or whatever, but Budokan teaches her literally day one mount escapes in training. It's like she already knows this. I would hope so. So that's like the only like fight related scene that I will nitpick because it is so absurdist to me.
See, so I didn't have that problem. One, I've never trained. I've briefly at some gym for like a month, maybe. So I've never properly trained as you two gentlemen have. And listen, she's been out of the game for a long time. And sometimes, you just got to bring it back to the fundamentals, right? You don't think Khabib, the Khabib is they don't take some time. Like Khabib, here's how you do a single leg takedown. You don't think he needs, just to humble him, to ground him.
I do not believe they talk him through the steps of it.
It's not a thing.
I don't think so. I could be wrong. That was like the only time where, and I know Casey with other films, you have kind of said that sort of took you out of the movie watching like some of the bad technique and stuff. That was the only time where I was like, this is ridiculous. And I got sort of set back from the movie, which frankly, given how sad the movie is, was kind of nice to take a break from it for a moment.
Oh, in the training montage, there was one part. They're like by the pier or by the port or something, and they're doing kettlebells and doing like she had a Bulgarian bag, which I thought was like extremely accurate. But then one scene, she's in the freaking river or in the ocean. I was like, that doesn't look sanitary. I was just like, you remember that she was just all of a sudden like she's jogging, then they have her just in the water, like treading water in the like. It's like I know Newark has pools. They gotta have you don't need to jump in the river to do this.
Gotta get tough.
Yeah, you gotta be tough. I know that scene you're talking about. I took that as more just that was more of I think more educating the audience. But yeah, that she was saying it is very
clearly educating the audience, and that's why it's like it's stuck out to me as like this is for you, viewer, and not like here's a natural part of the flow of what's occurring here.
I did miss the fact that there weren't like, because I've never seen outside of the highest level fighters, like say like a John Jones or even a Conor. Jackie Justice seemed to be getting private training for her entire fight, and I've just never seen that for an MMA fighter. MMA, like we always kind of joke it's a team sport because you do train as a team, and I think that's why everything kind of felt like this was a boxing film, except that they had grappling because the training felt very boxing. Like even the coach had a whistle. I've never seen a whistle in a MMA gym. I just never seen a whistle.
Yeah. Well, listen, we should make it clear. So this movie was written by, I want to say it's her first movie as well, Michelle Rosenfarb, who had been spending a decade trying to get essentially what was the project that would become Bruised off of the ground. It was originally a boxing film centered around an Irish woman who was to be played by Blake Lively. So yes, if you guys see the DNA of boxing in this film, it is essentially a boxing film now that was later dressed up with MMA. When they recast with Halle Berry, of course, it changed the angle of it. Blake Lively would have played an up-and-comer as opposed to Halle Berry, who's someone trying to come back into the fight game. So yeah, there were some differences here, and I think Michelle Rosenfarb acquainted herself pretty well, but I think we've said it already. Her and Halle Berry definitely stuffed this movie with plots. It's got a lot of plot. You're right. We should talk about Budokan, played by the lovely and talented. I keep forgetting her name. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. What is wrong with me? Sheila Atim. Sorry, I apologize to Sheila Atim. Yeah, she is fantastic in it. She looks great. She's a very well trained actress. There's a lot of like Broadway trained actors in this film. Halle Berry's mom is played by Adrienne Lennox. She's a Tony Award winner. There's a lot of acting in here. But just to focus again, sorry, on Budokan. This is what we talked about before, where she gets into a relationship with Halle Berry. They're very close working relationship, and then they get it on. They get it on, for lack of a more mature term. We are now 2 for 2.
And they get it on at a point in the movie where Jackie Justice has a lot of like emotional.
She's very vulnerable. Yeah. She's very vulnerable. This is not a time. Yeah. This is not a time when a mentor figure should be propositioning their student. There's probably never a good time for it. This is really, really not a good time. Especially since it does lead to further conflict between the characters, with Jackie wisely stepping away from the situation and saying, listen, I have a fight coming up. This isn't a good idea. And Budokan being very hurt by it and then going on a bender and becoming unable to go to her fight. So it's messy as hell. But I think we said, like, it was kind of cool that they showed this very unfortunate side of the combat sports game.
And that's the problem with this movie. Like, the movie could have been about that. It could have been about that. It could have been just about a single mom trying to fight. It could have been about her being an incest survivor. It could have been. By the way, we keep saying that. We should explain. There's another traumatizing storyline where Halle Berry, when she's having a fight with her mother, says, "Wow, how could you have just looked away while when I was a little girl, our uncles and men you were having over were molesting me." Were sexually assaulting me. So that's in there, and it's not.
They just kind of honestly throw it in too.
It's thrown in. It's like,
what if?
Yeah.
What if we just put a little dash of this horror in here as well? It's terrible.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's real tough, and and that, like you said, if they had picked some, like, that could have easily been removed, taken away, and yes, let's concentrate more on this. There's so little room for the coach storyline to breathe, that when Budokan shows up later, she's like badly beaten up, and she just says, "Oh, I was in the hospital." It's a long story, and I'm like, I kind of want to see that story.
Bruised 2, Adventures of Budokan.
I don't know. Is that something you can just hand?
The Adventures of Budokan.
Like they just hand wave that away. Like, oh yeah, something happened to Budokan. It was bad. I'm like, you could have shown us that and not shown us not thrown in 2 other trauma storylines, including the son, by the way. Like we said, he witnessed his father's murder, which again is not. No, that doesn't go anywhere. He's so traumatized he can't talk throughout the movie. It is just. It's rough, and all the talent in it, all the cast is doing their best. God bless them. They're doing what they can.
All the acting is quite good.
We talked about it the first time we recorded this. The wonderful Stephen McKinley Henderson, again, very decorated theater actor, television actor. Most people now will know him from the first Dune film. He doesn't get anything to do in this movie. He is pushed into a secondary role because they have the Budokan character, and then he's only allowed to step forward at the end because she's not available. And even then, the final scenes, it's just him going like, "Get her, Jackie, get her, lock her up." Like, this is an award-winning Broadway actor, and they give him nothing to do. And he brings great presence to every scene he's in, and they just don't use him. So, man, there's just some decisions made in this film that there's a much better film in here. I feel like we've said that a lot. Well, we didn't say that with Fight Valley because that movie was perfect, but or you guys said there was no saving it. Whatever. I mean, agree to disagree. Same idea. But this one and the Josie Aldo movie, man, it really feels so obvious how we could have made them better, and it's so frustrating
because this movie is like 2 hours 10 minutes or something.
Over 2 hours. Yeah, it's
2 hours and 18 is its official runtime.
Oh my god. Yeah. So imagine this was 90 minutes and cut out about. Get rid of the Budokan character. Great actress, but that character just was not just get rid of that. Get rid of it completely. Cut out a couple of the trauma storylines, and then you might have something much better, because this film wasn't critically well reviewed either by outside.
No, very average. Yeah,
very average. And that's what I guess that's what's most disappointing about this movie is, like, I think for all of us, we saw something there. They had the talent, they had the budget, they had the good cinematography, they had the locations, but then they just wanted too much, and we need less. We just need less. It was just, it's a weird thing to say out loud, but this movie was too much, and it needed less, and it would have been a lot more if it was.
Even the stuff with her son, Manny, like, and I think they both do a great job. Like, some of that stuff landed, like, I did enjoy it, but there wasn't enough happiness. Like, I wanted to see some happiness for them. Even the end of the movie is not really a happy ending. We want to remind people she essentially made $10K for an MMA fight.
And the movie ends with them literally being homeless and having nowhere to go.
Yes,
but they're smiling.
She's like, I don't know where we're going to go, Manny. And I'm like, this is where you were at the beginning of the film.
Find a place to go.
We're just going to find a place to live. And again, one example is, so this throughout the movie, they push this whole thing where she's like, I'm big and you're little, and big protects little. And it's these nicknames. So she's big, he's little. Those are the names they kind of try to sell. So at the end, when he finally speaks, he breaks the silence. He says, "Thank you, big." And it's supposed to be this big emotional moment. And it just doesn't land. If they had not done all that setup and just had him call her mom at the end, I think I would have shed a tear. I cry pretty easily in movies. That would have got me. The "thank you, big" thing did nothing. And again, there's just not enough moments where all their bonding is over trauma. There's not one scene where, like, oh, they go to the park or something and have a nice moment. No, everything's like there's a horribly sad scene where they're walking on the street and they hear the song that she knows that he shared with his father.
It's just so on the nose.
And it's so sad. It's so sad. And I'm like, why? Why did you need more sadness here? It's tough.
We even had the little kid have to piss himself. You remember he pissed himself?
Oh, God.
Like, there was just like, that's when there's so much. There's a whole scene of the kid pissing himself.
That brought back a lot of childhood trauma. That brought back a lot of childhood trauma for me. I was a cereal pants sweater. I didn't see that when I'm watching my MMA film. I kind of wish I hadn't put this on wax, but you know what? It's the internet. It lives forever.
Wait. Okay, we're going to go back to that.
I'm going to not talk about it. Try and give you some room here.
There's no time. So the big little thing, that was one of many standout quotes from the film. Guys, what quotes from the movie? Well, first, let's say, did they say the name of the movie? We had a dispute about this already. I said they kind of didn't, but they literally did.
They absolutely said. They
did. They technically did. They spiritually did not.
Yes, thank you, Jed. I'll read the exact line. After her fight with Valentina, Jackie goes home and sees her son, and she's just like, "I'm a little bruised up, but I'm good." She doesn't emphasize like that. The way she just says is, "I'm a little bruised up, but I'm good." So there's no emphasis on bruised. So it almost doesn't.
I mean, are you saying?
The issue is, if she just said, "I'm a little bruised," I would say that it's 100% said. Bruised up means that the title is said, but it's not like a bruised pause. It's not a bruised declarative end. So it is just forced in the middle of a line, and thus it is technically there. It's not spiritually the same as when they repeat Roadhouse 800 times in the first 12 minutes of Roadhouse. You guys know where the Roadhouse is? I'm heading to the Roadhouse. It's 10 miles up the road to the Roadhouse.
Just head down Fight Valley and turn right. You're at the Roadhouse.
Yeah. But Fight Valley as well. Where's Fight Valley? You've never been to Fight Valley? Oh, don't go to Fight Valley. I'm like, wow.
I can tell you're not from Fight Valley.
Yeah. They say it a lot in this stuff. So this time they somehow only say the word bruised once, and they don't even emphasize it. But Casey, you're satisfied with that? They said it.
I was satisfied. I was okay. No, I was disappointed, but also I didn't think we were going to get it, so we got it the very final scene?
It was
pretty much like
the very final.
The third to last line in the film.
Yeah. I wish he did look at the camera and wink, but what are you going to do?
Yes. Again, give me some joy. Give me a laugh.
Wait, real quick. We're talking about joy. Did you guys watch the Iron Claw?
No.
Yeah.
You didn't see the Iron Claw, AK?
I don't watch movies except for this podcast.
Very disappointing. But the Iron Claw, I think
honestly, a lot of similarity here.
A lot, yeah. That's what that's what reminded me. But the Iron Claw is a movie, obviously based on the Von Erichs and everything. They actually had to make that story happier because the actual real story is too sad, and that's what this movie kind of hurts from. It's just too sad. And even Iron Claw, they gave it kind of a happy ending, even though it wasn't a happy ending, but you kind of felt happy at the end of the Iron Claw. This movie, I guess they were trying to do that with the whole the kid talked, but they're still homeless.
Big. Yeah.
Thank you, Big. Yeah, I saw what they were trying to do. It just didn't hit. And the Iron Claw is a great movie. I highly recommend everyone watch it. But
also a very sad movie.
But a very sad movie. But
casual Friday.
Yeah, but no, but Iron Claw is incredibly sad. But it didn't feel like trauma porn like this movie was. It's such a fine line, and Bruised didn't hit it.
I did not consider the Iron Claw, like I just hadn't thought about it in this context. But you bring up a really good point, Casey, because I do think one of the fundamental failings, like if I could change anything, it would be an editor, and I would get rid of the entire Budokan plot. There's just too much.
That's the main one, yeah.
And the film would still work if you just did that. But if I could kind of make two changes, and I hadn't really thought about this until you just kind of crystallized it in my head. Because there is no levity, there is no happiness, there is nothing to attach to. The sadness in Iron Claw is more substantive because you have moments of joy and happiness. And I don't remember any of the characters' names. Here's High School Musical dude who looks real weird, but he's with his wife, and here he is hanging out with his brothers, and there's the interpersonal connection here, and there's a positive moment which can then show in contrast to yet another brother dying, because that movie is just a relentless onslaught of brothers dying. And so it is sadder. Like I felt more sad watching Iron Claw, which, like that's what it is, trying to evoke those emotions out of you. This one, I immediately was like, this is horrible. And then because I stayed in a constant state of everything happening is unfortunate, there was no like, oh, now when she says, I can't believe you, Mom let them rape me, that doesn't land in the same way that punch would land if I didn't see it coming. Because I've got my guard up, like what other bad shit's about to happen here? And so it does, and it's like, oh, here it is. Here's the next bad thing. There is no contrast of joy in it, and the film desperately needed that to land more effectively, like you said, AK. The stuff at the end that goes over better if there are happier moments in the middle somewhere, but because it is just tacked on the end, it doesn't hit.
Yeah, like how great would the scene would have been, like, again, the one where they hear the song that the kid knows and makes them sad. If she had changed the radio and then put on like a different song, I was like, oh, then there's something happy together, and that's their song now.
Dude, just movies like all the Budokan scenes, if instead of those scenes are her relating with her child in a way that is fun and interesting, this movie is a 10 times better. Like honestly, instead of her going to the diner and talking about life with the character who kind of doesn't have a payoff or serve a purpose, it's just like, hey, you and me are going to go to the zoo today and hang out with the platypuses or whatever. Like it would just be a substantially better film.
Yeah, I gotta say when they started pushing the Budokan relationship with her and Jackie Justice, I was, as a viewer, I was actually really disappointed because I like Jed said, like I had my guard up. And I was like, oh, they're throwing more because you knew when they started making out.
You know exactly what's going.
You knew it was going to happen. It's like, no, I thought this would be like, I don't know. There was something they went to the obvious because we all kind of felt it coming, like, oh, don't do it. And then they did do it. And it was just like, I think, yeah, it was just, you needed something else.
It's just a different movie.
Yeah.
That is a different movie shoehorned into this movie because, okay, I think you're the one who said it. Halle Berry just wanted to put it all out there. She had all of this and she wanted to get it all. And it just doesn't fit this movie as a more linear, successful film. If it is either about Budokan and that relationship, or it is about Jackie Justice and her son and that relationship, it cannot be about both.
Yeah. Again, we will say this sort of relationship and that particular, the lesbian sex scene, was somewhat important to Halle. She did mention in an interview. She said she's very used to, of course, being in love scenes that are filmed by male directors. So it's very empowering for her to sort of film her own love scene. So yes, whether that makes the scene work or not, or enjoyable or not, is debatable. But, good for her. As we said, she wanted to throw a lot of stuff in. That was clearly, I think, very, very clearly a Halle Berry call. And listen, she's living her truth with this film. That's for sure. This is a Halle Berry joint. Yeah.
It's a good scene. It just doesn't. It
Not in this
detracts from the
movie.
rest of the movie because there are too many things. Like getting rid of Budokan and just having Stephen Wilkerson, is that his name, right?
Stephen McKinley Henderson. Yeah.
Stephen McKinley Henderson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just having him be the coach and not even elevating his character much, like just doing the Budokan stuff, and then
or one
cutting out the
inspirational
rest of
speech.
that.
Give us one positive inspirational speech. Just one sports movie thing.
One speech, and then the rest of the time she's hanging out with her son and they're developing a relationship. And so when he speaks to her, it is more meaningful as opposed to I'm still not sure why he speaks to her in the confines of the movie, because just prior to this, he stopped living with her because she was a bad parent. So it's it has some real editing failures. In this
I kind of wonder if they would have changed Budokan's character as just like a training partner in the gym or something. Sure. I don't know. And then the Stephen McKinley was the actual coach. He was the actual coach. And then you met this training partner who is also going through these troubles too in life because she was a former addict too. I think they mentioned she was an addict. I think alcoholic. And I don't know. It was just. Yeah. It just once they threw that in, I think it made the movie too much, and then it was just hard to go back from that.
If you're gonna stack the deck against the characters, you can only stack them so high, or you better be prepared to find a way to resolve all those things in a mostly satisfactory manner. And there's so many threads. Like we said, by the end of this movie, all we know is she has $10,000 in her pocket before tax, and no place to live. And she's still a single mom. She still has a son who is just starting to come out of his shell, thank goodness. But it's not enough optimism at the end, considering because they stacked the deck too high. There's so much unresolved. And I'm not saying it all has to be resolved at once. It's not magically resolved in one day, but you just don't even get a hint that some of this stuff is going to be dealt with properly. It's rough. That's a rough thing to swallow down at the end. I want to just get in my favorite quote from the movie real quick. We'll just touch upon it quickly. Jackie early on says, I think this is after she beats up Werewolf or something. She said, it's after she loses her job because the kid who house she's cleaning for is a friggin' pervert. She says after she roughs him up, she tells her manager / boyfriend that was super necessary. And it's not. I don't love this because it was a reference to whatever the Jorge Masvidal thing, which had just happened, I think, the year before this movie. But because that's the only
filming it.
Yeah, that's like the only MMA line they kind of throw in there. They don't get cute with it. There's not like in between rounds, Valentina going like, "I'm not impressed by your performance" or anything like that. They threw in one line to let them know like, "Hey, we like MMA and we thought this line is really cool and it fits the scene, it fits the movie," and that's it. They did not try and shoehorn more MMA dialogue in, and so it's the absence of it that I'm really appreciating here. I don't know if you guys got any good lines that you loved.
My favorite line.
Oh, sorry.
My favorite line is just Eve Edwards in the final fight scene. He is he's commentating with Julia Kedzie, and at some point, I don't remember what round or whatever, he just says, "Revenge is a dish best served on the feet," which is just a terrific, stupid line. Like it's a terrific bad movie line, and I like it a lot. That's my favorite line.
Can you use that? Can I see you tweet that somewhere in the future? Like.
Yes.
There's a big knockout or something.
At some point, look, every Alex Pereira fight is defined by that of, you took me down. Revenge is a dish best served on the feet.
That and you have to destroy the play. What is it? You have to kill the Playboys? What was it?
Kill the Playboys.
Kill the Playboys.
Annihilate the Playboys.
Annihilate the Playboys. Like, annihilate the Playboys.
One of the best lines in movies.
Shout out to Jose Aldo biopic. Casey, any big lines here?
My favorite line, because it's just such a writer. You can tell a writer wrote this in a coffee shop. They were like, yes. When Budokan is coaching Jackie Justice, and Budokan says, "You have to level change. And if you don't mix it up, she will level you."
So bad.
That's good. That's good advice. It's catchy. It's easy to remember. I like that.
I remember you said that. I was just like, wow.
we're gonna get to the review in a second. First, do we all agree if Jackie Justice? Go ahead.
We didn't talk about this at all.
Hit me up.
Right? I don't know. I don't remember exactly the part of the film this happened in the middle of the training montage. There was a rendition of Hallelujah in the movie. Remember?
Yes.
Why was that?
This is when she's finally starting to turn. Things are kind of starting to turn around. She's getting rid of almost all the alcohol. I don't think she gets rid of the spray bottle, but she's like doing her best. She's pouring out all the bottles of alcohol. Her terrible, horrible boyfriend manager is kind of just like wandering the streets and I think catches up with some of his old buddies. I think we see Budokan as well. Like they're kind of hinting like this is the part of the movie where we see her in earnest start becoming a fighter again. She's fighting back, Casey. She's retaking control. Unfortunately, that scene is followed by, again, 6 other scenes of just horrible, horrible, horrible stuff. So it doesn't really work. But again, that reeks of first time directing itis. Like, Halle Berry I had this scene in mind. Like, can we get Hallelujah? Can we get a version of Hallelujah in there? Like, this is going to be so powerful, but it just doesn't land that well with everything that happened before and whatever happens after.
Yeah, it was just, I was just like, oh, this is too much. I remember.
I know.
Too much.
You could see, again, we all have, I think, a scene in our mind. We're like, man, I would love to take this song and like, do a montage of this. And that's what she wanted. And she got it. And you know what? Mileage may vary. Do we all agree, Jackie, if she continued, let's pretend she gets some more money and actually gets back on track, she would be a title contender in the UFC. She's a bit up there in age. But I think she could contend.
Title contender, no, but I do think she'd be, top 15, top 25 based on what we know from the movie and sort of getting robbed out of a decision win over the Invicta champion.
You scored it for
historically, Jackie. I think Jackie, based on the edit, looks like she should have won that fight. But a couple of close rounds in there. Not a robbery, I guess, maybe. Just because the rounds she lost were definitive. But seemed like she probably won the fight. But, Invicta champions have a track record of success in UFC. She functionally was should or could have been an Invicta champion. A little older, so I'm not sure she'd actually fight for the title, but top 20, top 15 flyweight for sure.
Yeah, we should be clear. She does fight for the flyweight title on this. She's definitely picking up some fight of the nights, I think. Maybe a performance bonus. Get a slick submission in there. She's tapping somebody out. Casey?
She clearly is UFC level. I would even say she's like maybe like a Lauren Murphy type of fighter. Like,
that's a good comparison.
Like, hell of a chin, take a beating, but in the end, it was really her ground game that's going to lead her to success. And up there in age. I know Lauren Murphy has come back from some substance abuse problems in the past. She's mentioned
very open about it. Yeah, it's very open.
Yeah. So hey, man,
is Bruised actually the Lauren Murphy story?
If I was Lauren Murphy, I would be like, I wish I could have at least like been in this movie. Like, I wish I could have had a part in this movie, and even some consulting. Because she had a rocky road. She had a rocky road to becoming a world title.
And it's a great story. The Lauren Murphy story is great too. Like that's kind of weird. Like just do a biopic of Lauren Murphy, and then Lauren Murphy just losing a title fight.
I'm not sure Halle Berry could play Lauren Murphy in a biopic.
Susie Selleck, though. Susie Selleck, I feel like. Yes.
Hey, and Lauren Murphy and Halle Berry both lost fights to Lucia Chavez.
The lady killer, yeah. I think we will also agree, though, that if she moved up to 135, she's just going to win the title.
Not win the title because Kayla's there now, but she probably gets. Everyone gets to fight.
Kayla ain't made 135 yet. Yeah,
that's true. She technically has not made 135 on the dot yet. But yeah, Jackie Justice, Halle Berry, bravo, a great performance, and I think one of the better. I would pick her to beat up like Knox. There's a lot of people in these other movies that she would clear out Fight Valley. Like,
I don't think I would pick her to beat up Knox. As Knox went toe to toe with Knox just went toe to toe with Dalton, who was the middleweight champion of the world.
He never was. That was that was overturned via murder.
He's 12 seconds.
Contest. No contest via murder.
Via murder. He was never we do not recognize him as a middleweight champ.
Uncrowned champ. And Knox went toe to toe with him.
I still rank him above the dead Jay Heron. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Sure.
He won the fight.
Yes.
Jay Heron is dead. Jay Heron lost the fight and the war.
Guys.
18 months he's out of the rankings. Okay.
Let's review this movie. Casey, I don't know if you want to put a fancy graphic on now or do you want us to we should review first. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I have a graphic for how we rate all the movies.
Of course. let's prepare, guys. Get your fists ready. Again, everyone, this is each of us has up to 2 fists, so it's a 6-fist system. Casey, if we could get a drum roll, please, here, and we'll show
All right, drum
our
roll.
We will show our fists.
We'll show our fists. Knuckle up, boys. Oh, Jed went with 1.
Wow.
I'm a little surprised. 1 for me as well. Casey, 0. So for our podcast listeners, 1 from Jed, 1 from me. 0 from Casey. I thought Casey was going to give 1, and Jed, you were going to give 0. So Casey, first, why the 0?
I'm an editor at heart.
Ooh.
And
it's going to be a tough movie for you then.
This movie need to be edited. It needed to be edited. You said it great earlier, AK. What did you say? She had directoritis or something. I don't know. You said
first time directoritis.
Yeah, first time directoritis, and it really hurt. And she needed a editor that was going to be ruthless. And this movie needed a ruthless editor, and editors have to be ruthless. We always say you got to kill your babies a lot. And yeah, I know Halle Berry wanted to direct her own sex scene or whatever, but it had to go. And that was just those are just too much for me, just too much. And yeah. So in the end, I kind of talked about this in the Aldo movie. I did not like how they put the domestic violence kind of aspect in that movie, but really with no resolution or no real conversation on it. And this movie, the way she just dropped in the rape and the incest, it was just no. I was just like, you can't do that. Sorry, you can't do that. It's just too much. And because of that, unfortunately, I had to give it no fist. But great effort. Like I said, watch the last act of the film. Just watch that. Skip the first 40 hour and a half. Watch the last act, and then I think the film is fine. But otherwise, it's too much.
Jed, you had a lot of similar complaints, so I'm a little surprised. So how did it actually earn a fist on your scorecard?
So I felt really conflicted trying to figure out where I wanted to kind of put this for my scoring. And I have, to this point, given if it's 2 fists, I think the movie is great, and I would actively tell friends to watch it. That's kind of my baseline. And if it's 1 fist, I would not dissuade people from watching. So yeah, that's a reasonable film to watch it. And I think this just clears that bar because I have all the same issues Casey has with it. I do think it does enough things well that it deserves better than Fight Valley. Like, if that's a simple way to put it. The acting in this film is very good. The story is a little bit jumbled and certainly needs editing, but overall you're getting something that is a real piece of filmmaking. There are enough and the final scene alone is good enough that if you're just an MMA fan and can make it through the 2 hours before, I guess the hour and 45 minutes until the final scene, you get paid off in the end with that, maybe if not in the story arcs. And so because it is, it has good cinematography, the score is good, the dialogue is honestly not that bad. It is just, it has that one major flaw that holds it down. I still don't think that if someone I knew was like, hey, I'm going to check out Bruised, have you seen it? I'd be like, yeah, I would certainly let them know it's not a happy time, but I wouldn't be like, you should not watch that. And so it's going to get a fist for me.
Interesting. Well, this puts us in a bit. I'll quickly explain my review. Again, that final fight scene really is just enough, just based on that. And and I did enjoy some of the drama. I thought Halle Berry and the young actor who played Manny, there was a connection there. I just wish they could have let them have a little more fun. She directed herself. I wish there could have been a little more fun in there, a little more of that kind of bonding as opposed to just trauma bonding, which is, it's a thing in real life. It's not the most compelling thing to watch on screen necessarily. So we needed more of that. But overall, I thought that the fighting content was solid. I don't want to say I loved the movie or even particularly enjoyed it, but I didn't regret watching it. I haven't regretted watching any of the films we've done, guys. But this is a 2 out of 6. We have a conundrum here, guys. We have our first tie. So, Casey, before I say how we're going to settle this, could you throw up sort of our tier list of what is so far the 5 greatest MMA movies of all time?
MMA movies of all time.
Yeah, this is the definitive list. So again, in progress, obviously, guys, in progress. But science takes time. So there it is. We have Blood and Bone at number 1, Masforchico Mundo at number 2, Roadhouse number 3, Fight Valley at number 4, and Bruised unranked. It's not number 5. It's unranked.
Yeah, right.
So it is by our math, it will move above Fight Valley. Again, agree to disagree. And it will tie with Roadhouse, which we also gave 2 out of 6. Now, here's how we're going to decide this. Casey, I remember you gave Roadhouse a fist. Yes, you gave Roadhouse a fist because I gave it no fists. So clearly you and I are on the opposite sides of this. Mm-hmm. So my vote would be to have Bruised ahead of Roadhouse. Your vote would have to be to have Bruised behind Roadhouse. Jed, you will be the decider here. I think you have to be the decider. One vote. So right now it's 1 for Bruised.
I hate it.
Yeah, 1 for Roadhouse. Jed, where's this going to go? Does this go before? Is this number 3 or number 4?
I have to put this at 4.
Ooh.
I don't feel good about that decision, frankly, but one of these movies, while I think objectively Bruised is a better film than Roadhouse, because Roadhouse has so many huge problems with it. One of them I would watch again and one I would not. And the one I would watch again is Roadhouse. I might not be stoked about it, but there's levity, there's joy to it. The opening hour prior to Connor's arrival is quite good. So I think that's going to elevate it above if I have to, because I think if I had 2 friends come up to me like, I got to pick between watching these 2 movies, I would send them to Roadhouse.
More than fair. I do think we all agree we would take, if we could pick just one scene, we would all pick the fight scene from Bruised over anything in Roadhouse. Okay. But if we're taking the movies,
I would honestly pick the fight scene in Bruised over anything in any of the movies we have watched thus far.
Blood and Bone, some good stuff in there. Susie Selleck every time she's on screen.
Well, in a true MMA fight, yeah, Bruised by far, mixed martial arts fight, yeah, Bruised wins.
That one scene. That one scene stands out. It is unfortunate that it's just not a particularly enjoyable watch. And I think I think we are making this list not just for like hardcore cinephiles, but for people who are looking for a martial arts film to kind of sit down and enjoy. It's a tough ask to get people to sit through the entirety of Bruised just to get to that one scene, which is worth it. It's great. But you're right. If someone said I'm looking for a martial arts movie to have enjoy Roadhouse, Bruised, 9 out of 10 people are probably going to want to watch Roadhouse instead. So.
It's such a weird thing because I know Bruised is a much better movie.
We all know this. We all know this.
Than say Fight Valley, but some reason I don't like saying this out loud. I actually enjoyed watching Fight Valley more than Bruised.
That's insane.
That's not insane. There you go. Finally, we have gotten all of this was so I could get Casey to this point. Yes, Casey, go on.
Because Fight Valley was shot on a couple of iPhones by junior high kids. And you know what? And for a budget of $14. And
as far as we know, no women, by the way, were involved in the creative side. Like I don't think directing, writing, it was all men. Yeah. All men. So.
I mean, and Fight Valley and Bruised had both 2 very unnecessary lesbian sex scenes. But I don't know, for some reason, like I don't know. I enjoyed watching how bad Fight Valley was then, because Bruised had potential, and like the potential, that's what kind of hurts me, because like there was so much money and talent that went into Bruised. Even look at this poster. That's a great poster. That looks freaking cool. You know, that's a very well designed poster. Of all the posters on the screen, it looks the best. So there were so many talented artists that went into Bruised. It just, like we've said it a million times, it was just too much, and I almost kind of hate it now because of that. Because it could have been something and it didn't. You know, that lost potential.
I just love.
But Fight Valley never had potential.
I love the poster now.
Fight Valley made me angry with how bad it was.
I stand by it. Listen, it is official. That's just me. It is officially the 5th greatest MMA movie of all time, behind Bruised, behind Roadhouse, behind the Stronger Than the World, and behind Blood and Bone. So
if I have any say in it, it will be the last every time. As long as I can keep putting that thing in the back.
We got a lot of movies. Something's going to get 0 fists eventually. My one fist will save Fight Valley from ignominy. So next week, guys, we've said after Stronger Than the World, we said, boy, we need a movie that has some strong female characters. I think we got that this week. So there you go. That's checked off. Now, after both these movies, we need something with joy. We need something with levity. I have not seen this movie, but it has Kevin James in it. So I imagine there has to be at least a few laughs in here. We're going to close out our first season of This Is Cinema with the very popular MMA comedy, Here Comes the Boom. Starring many MMA fighters, MMA cameos.
This is going to be number one at the end of the season.
I hope so, because I thought Roadhouse was going to hold on to that number one spot for a while, and it held on for about a week or two. I don't even know. So,
it beat
guys,
Fight
thank
Valley
you.
and then gave it up.
I'm just glad we talk about Fight Valley so much, guys. Fight Valley. I should remind people every week. That's free to watch on YouTube. Fight Valley.
Free to watch on YouTube.
Free to watch. Costs you nothing. It's 90 minutes. 90
it's on
solid
YouTube,
minutes.
and
it's on YouTube.
There's full frontal nudity. Spoiler.
Yeah. And if you watch, if you watch at 2x speed, 45 minutes. So really, you have no reason. You have no reason not to watch Fight Valley.
You have a lot of reasons not to.
No. Next week, Here Comes the Boom. Thank you, Jed Meshew. Thank you, Casey Leydon. It has been so much fun, and I can't wait to actually have fun watching a movie.
Yeah.
Thank God.
So thanks to everyone for listening, and we will see you next time.
Love y'all.